Wait, so does Byf know the answer?
To what?
If Guardians still have their junk.
I mean, I'll DM him here real quick. He's totally up right now. Yo, serious lore question. Do, like, Guardians have their junk still?
And is it functional?
And is it functional? Inquiring minds want to know. He's responding. He saw it. I see the little ... coming up. We have an official response here. Now that's a question. Do they have relationships and feel affection? Yes. Does the junk work? Well, seeing as there are no guardian children, I'm tempted to say no. I'm tempted to say it still could work. Damn, my guardian's sexy. Oh shit, yeah, Byf's coming on, guys. Anyway, big topic of discussion right now. We were discussing like fan fiction, and we wanted to find some really smutty stuff, and then that just brought up the actual question of, well, I mean, do Guardians still have their junk, and does it still work?
So there's a few interesting things to touch on here. I'm gonna go ahead and openly say this. This is gonna sound hilarious when you hear it at first, but you will understand why the minute I say it. My girlfriend would be able to tell you this better. And the reason behind this is because not only is she also like lore master extraordinaire, but also she actually has like degrees and stuff in microbiology, and so yeah, it's basically she understands the whole like complexities of reproduction a little bit better.
You know,
like,
my girlfriend, same thing actually. She's not shitting it. She's microbiologist or biologist.
Oh, seriously?
I'm also a biologist. I understand.
Red ears too. Yeah.
Oh my god, everyone here is far more qualified than me.
It's fine.
I studied politics. I don't know what anything is.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, you know. But yeah, so a few things to note regarding the whole can Guardians have sex thing. Slash, can they use their junk?
It's more of does it work?
Does it work?
Does it work?
Yeah, because the bit I don't doubt is that Guardians could probably do it. But the question then, of course, is does their junk work?
Yeah.
If you're looking at this...
Well, I mean, you also have to ask, what does their junk work even mean?
That's a fair point. Like, could they reproduce?
Could they reproduce, or do we just need to get it up at this point?
Is there eggs and sperm?
Yeah.
So, with regards to guardian relationships generally and the idea of procreation, you got to remember, for starters, that there's a few weird points. Like every single time you die, your body gets kind of fucking transmatted and everything, and you can.
Is it like reset to that age that you initially died?
That's the thing that's so fucking unclear about it. Like, you've got this process by which you're reborn, and it's not entirely clear what stays and what doesn't. But what's very clear is that you can be destroyed down to your base molecules, and as long as your ghost has light, they can still resurrect you. So, advanced process, but also another thing that I think comes into it is the fact that we've been dead for potentially millennia for some Guardians. For a few others, it's maybe a little bit less clear because there's some odd fringe cases, such as like Shinobu, who died for maybe a few minutes or hours, but yeah, I mean, Guardians have been dead, and at that point, you've got to wonder, like, what happens to anything left over? Like, what's the purpose of keeping someone alive with the light? Is it purely just so they can fight? This kind of... It's weird, because unintentionally it goes to the heart of what a Guardian's purpose is.
What do Guardians need to eat?
Yeah, so here's the other thing.
Wait, Guardians need to eat?
Judging by all the ramen shops, I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, no, Guardians eat and drink.
Well, they eat and drink, but do they have to?
That's another very good question. But I do know that for sure there is a certain point of saying they want to. There is like
there is a need to.
Right?
There is a need to, whether it is like they have to. You know, it's the equivalent of me getting a GTX 1080 Ti graphics card. I don't need it, but I want it. I desire it. I need the frames. Okay, yeah.
So here's the thing, right? You can tell because back in some of the more recent grimoire that I looked at, one of them is Wei Ning, right? And in that she buys an entire 3 rounds for the bar that she's in. 3 rounds, which, I mean, fucking awesome in the first place. But everyone starts cheering. So clearly, Guardians...
They like drinking.
They like drinking. They can get drunk, which tells us
That
something.
also,
It tells
yeah.
us that they're able to process things through a gastric system.
Mm.
It also tells us that their livers still work.
Well,
So, yeah, it's weird, but really it does. Like,
All right.
either their livers still work, or there's a process. by
So
which they
yeah,
don't
if
need
if
the
their
liver.
if their livers and everything still work, there's a good chance everything else is still working too.
Potentially.
Potentially.
It's
All right.
also something where you think about the use of the organs, right? Like, is this key for me to stay alive right here and now? Is this a key functional thing, or is it something which is part of a process that maybe isn't useful anymore?
So like,
this is something to speculate about.
all right, the Guardians could turn off pain receptors to their liver if they're getting fucking wailed on by a vandal.
Or, well, Vandal Brew, I guess.
Yeah.
But no, like, that's kind of not really what I'm going for. It's a way of saying, like, if you are being reincarnated in the light, is
Mhm.
it potentially possible that you have all of your key organs for pure survival purposes? Like, oh, this organ filters out toxins in the body, should probably keep that on. Oh, this organ lets them breathe. Yeah, that's cool. But if you think about ovaries or testes, it's literally just
One
there
could
for
one
reproduction.
one could argue that the key purpose of reproduction is survival.
Indeed, but survival has already been guaranteed by the consistent resurrection. So at that point, like, you ask yourself, is it consistent?
But sometimes you need to increase your
Is there a
numbers.
need?
That is one of the points of increasing your ranks so that you may survive.
Indeed, but again, it's whether light takes that into account at all, or whether the whole process takes that into account. Another really interesting thing, Guardians get angry, right?
Yes,
The fact that there's
that-
anger, the fact that there's any emotion whatsoever, means that you have some kind of response with. I wanna just dumb it down and say chemicals in the brain, but someone's gonna find the better word that exists for it instantly. It's
Fucking cells and shit.
fucking biologists. Come
Yeah.
on, we got this. We can do this.
I'm not, dude.
What do you want me to say?
I have a photography degree. What are you talking about? I don't.
Yay, we both have crap degrees.
You mean dopamine?
I mean, I say that, but then again, you can get a job with yours instantly. I just get fucking hate mail. Hormones. Hormones. There
Sure.
we go. Hormones, right?
Sure.
Because if a Guardian
Good
gets
enough.
angry, if a Guardian experiences grief, loss, any kind of emotion, then they're releasing hormones. And that kind of tells us quite a bit about the fact that various organs are probably still producing things, right? So they probably still have a functional pituitary gland.
And then if Guardian's more prone to anger, might have more testosterone.
Where
Testosterone
does that come from?
produced in the
Well, I'm
balls.
pretty...
Something like that, I think.
Testosterone increases aggressive behavior in males, and it's released when you get angry. So
So
If,
even just having emotions, yeah.
even just getting angry involves testosterone.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And considering that Lord Shax is a thing.
That-
Yeah, considering Lord Shax is a thing, I think it's pretty clear that Guardians can get angry. You know,
Mhm.
like the whole "what do you mean?"
Well, Shax doesn't get angry. He just gets disappointed.
very, very dramatic.
Shax is basically all of our dads at this point.
Oh. I mean,
Ouch.
he's the dad that expects his kid to do really well in the soccer match.
Because not because he wants their son to win. He just wants their son to be better and like just
He's
always.
not vicariously winning through.
Yeah,
the
yeah, exactly.
Guardians that win on the
He
field. He's-
already like got his Super Bowl and shit. Yeah, he's not living through his child anymore or something.
He's just a washed up coach.
Not really even washed up. I'm pretty sure Shax would be dual wielding Galler horns in D2 if he were to actually
that's-
go in here.
I mean, he was the only one with the fucking raise lighter.
Yeah.
About it.
That is true. We
I
got off
still say
topic.
no on the whole front of Guardians with kids.
Mhm.
And that's primarily because of the fact that we see no evidence of it in game.
Someone was
Having said
someone in chat was talking about some Owl Sector stuff where there were like guardians and their families or something. But yeah.
But what if there's
I
no
need to look
evidence
through that,
because
though.
they just die and then forget? Then you've just got
That's
some
a fair
kid in an
point.
orphanage.
The other thing to note is, I did a brief thing, the minute I came in, I heard you repeat that same line, and I did a brief scan through the Owl Sector logs with word search. Unless they're using another word other than family, does not exist.
Okay.
because the word family only appears in one thing with the Ishtar Collective variants of it, and it's the fact that it's related to the Brays. It's the only reference to the word family that I can find. However, it does raise a really interesting point, which is that Ikora and one of the members of Owl Sector, who is undoubtedly just a normal human being, yeah, they used to have a relationship, and now they no longer do, if I'm remembering it correctly.
Because he's dead, or like...
No, they broke it off. If I need to look back at this and remember, but the, yeah, to the best of my memory, it's one of these things about you will live forever and I'll just wither and die kind of things.
So it's the Lord of the Rings thing. Eowyn and Aragorn.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, I need to look back at this. Hang on a sec.
One of the big things though is people are asking, are exos equipped for the
act?
Yeah, for the acts.
Okay. Very important thing to understand about the exos generally. When you look at an exo, you've got to remember who it's built by. It's built by humans in the image of humans to supplant a human body and allow a consciousness.
If I was building a frame or an exo robot, I'd put a dick on it for myself.
Right. What would you want to do? Right. It's the same reason why exo women have, well, for starters, are considerable as women and also have breasts. Because it's a thing of saying this is a reflection of a human body, and a human consciousness that identifies as this gender is going to be living inside that body, and therefore you've got to have the parts. Whether they function or not is a different case.
They could just be padding. Because
I mean, it's a case of feeling the same in your own skin, kind of thing. You know what I mean, right? Ugh, sorry. Apparently, I've woken up and I have a horrible, horrible cold. But yeah, that's the really important thing to remember about anything to do with the exo, right? They are primarily built for war after a certain point, but the initial concept for them, if I'm not mistaken, is just to allow people to live on and for consciousness to exist. And the interesting thing to remember, in the Golden Age, they were seen as almost no different, right? Like, humanity ascends beyond this kind of foolish idea of, discriminating against other human beings, and more importantly, it starts to stop discriminating against artificial persons that have been created as well. Like, they're very much equal members of society before the collapse. And the collapse doesn't really change much because exos are still exos are still people. But it's just like, yeah, things change slightly. That's about it.
But there's a universal constant. People always want to get freaky.
Yes, I think so.
Wait, I'm confused. Didn't the Brays have a child? Wasn't Anna Bray a child of...
Okay, so this brings us to the whole complicated fucking weird Bray thing. Right, so the Brays are a family that existed during the Golden Age and still exist now during the collapse, right? Whether it's the same Bray name or whether it's been adopted and carried over isn't clear, but they all carry the same Bray. And lots of them are famous for doing various things, right? So, for example, Elsie Bray, during the city, she created a ship. And, is famous for having done a bunch of engineering stuff on that front. The guys who are the ancient Brays, the Brays of the Golden Age, I mean, they did all sorts of things like create Siva. If you actually go back with the Owl Sector stuff, you'll see that one of the Brays were involved. And, they did all sorts of other things. The Brays probably invented the war mines. The Brays almost definitely invented the exos. So there's a few things to think about there with regards to their creation, but the really complicated one becomes Anna Bray, right? Because she is a guardian, that means she has to have been reborn, or she has alternatively had to have picked up her ghost from somewhere else, in the same way that Shin Malfa does. For those of you who don't know, Shin Malfa didn't die before becoming a guardian. He was there when another guardian died and the other guardian's ghost was still around, and then simply chose a second guardian, right?
Okay.
So that's very rare and it does happen, but it's one of these really fringe cases where if it does, it's just so kind of out of the way and weird and not really ever seen. It's one of the stranger occurrences for something like that to ever happen, right?
All right.
So the fact that Anna Bray is a guardian in the first place is weird. It means one of two things. Either she has taken that name and, she's been adopted by a ghost that lost its original guardian, or alternatively, She's just a guardian that woke up normally after she died, but she adopted the name Anna Bray somehow. Right?
Okay. One thing I'm not entirely clear on, for the most part, I'm sure there's going to be some weird fringe cases, but do Guardians remember like everything before they died?
No.
Okay, so they don't remember who they were, basically.
The closest that you get are Exos, right?
Okay,
And
so I know
Exos
Cade has some like memories and stuff of himself, basically.
So he's even trying to remember. Lots of Exos don't, but Cade is very different in the sense that he deliberately does, right? He even has like, it's part of the reason why he plays cards and why you always get things like the Ace of Spades association with Cade, because you get him remembering different memory prompts through card games, right?
Okay.
So that's kind of the way that he keeps track of his memories and how he tries to hold on to things. With any other Guardian, though, with most normal Guardians, no memory of their past life whatsoever.
Okay.
Which is sad too, because it's like there's so many things, man.
Yeah, there's some interesting occasions where, you know, I'm sure there were some Guardians that were created very quickly after the ghosts were created, and you know there are people who remember this Guardian before they were a Guardian, but the Guardian has no memory of them.
Yeah. Again, the most interesting case, as it was before, is the case of Shinobu, right? Because again, she died for what seems to be minutes, hours, or at most days, and she literally dies with her older journal on her. And she sees that she's written a recent entry, and she calls herself Shinobu, and she's like, "Well, I guess that's my name." So, you know, like it does happen.
Fucking shit! If I ever die and find my online tag, I'm gonna end up calling myself Holtzmann. Could be worse.
You know.
Could be worse. I could have MyNameisByf, and then I just end up calling myself MyNameisByf instead of just Byf.
Indeed, people seem to forget that that's an alias and not a real name. Well, it is part of my real name, which I shall not disclose because stalkers exist. Yay!
That's a fun part. That's a fun thing. All right, let's see. Anything else we needed to discuss about? Yeah. So the junk, you know, Exo's definitely. I mean, created by man, image of himself. You know, I'd equip myself with the things. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And we do know that like Exos eat and drink and stuff because, well, we've seen it in Cade.
And Ariana, not Ariana. Yes, Ariana, rather, for that matter. Because, yeah, Wei Ning buys the rounds and everyone drinks, including her.
All
Just
right.
like, yeah.
Well, I think that so we need to come to a conclusion.
What about
here.
Awoken?
No. Do we know much about the biology of Awoken?
Oh, that's a whole... okay.
Do we even know what happened to them after they kind of, did
we know
the
that they
thing?
are somehow both light and dark now. Again, this is one of those things where Morg would absolutely be all over this.
Okay.
I'm going to try and give you the cursory stuff that she has briefly told me regarding this stuff, because we've actually talked about this before on the topic of whether Awoken and human partners could reproduce. The answer is probably no, and that's primarily because of the skin color. That sounds weird at first, I know, but it's generally based on the way that the DNA works in order to create something like that, right? So you have your normal skin pigments from very dark to very light, right?
So it's why there's no like green people. There's
why there aren't green or blue
That's
human
because they're
beings,
chlorophyll cells, Pat.
right? So
Sure.
the fact that it's changed down to their base biology on that front, and the fact that they are now of a different set of skin pigments from very sort of dark.
You could
Wait,
argue
what?
that it was just
It
like
doesn't?
a mutation in a population that's just become accepted over time.
Accepted over time, but then does that make it the same?
What do you mean?
As in, if it's an entire population that's mutated and they've clearly chosen the name Awoken.
So you mean
well.
as it turned into a different species? per
Yeah,
se?
the difference
Yeah.
between all the early human types and bullshit. I don't remember all the names. But
Yeah.
Yes.
You see,
We'd
this
need
is,
DNA
this
test
is
for
why I
that.
was poorly equipped for it, because the minute I was like, oh god, no, yeah. The minute I started talking about this, I was like, oh god, there's awful in
Yeah, it's
like,
fine.
Yeah. Oh god. But yeah, no. It's something that I would definitely leave down to Morg, because she knows this
Okay.
stuff much better than I do.
So-
like, it's her spiel.
So I think we can come to a conclusion after all of this, which is what we wanted, is Guardians. Does their junk work? We're gonna go with yes. We're gonna go with yes.
Yes.
Conclusive. Conclusive.
Yes for Freaky Time.
Conclusive until proven otherwise in the lore. I challenge you, Bungie.